Today we're going to continue on talking about statistics, and we're going to talk about measures of variability. Definitely we're first going to start with some vocabulary because there's going to be some new terms on here. The first one is quartile. It is a set of data divided into 4 equal parts. So when you think quartile, think quarter or quart, and there's 4 of those in each one of those sets. The next one is a word we've already had. It's median, and it's the middle quartile. So that middle number of your data is going to be the middle quartile. The third one is first quartile. You'll also see it written as Q1. This is the median of the lower half of the data. So it's the middle number of the lower half. The next one is third quartile, which you'll see it written as Q3. This is the median of the upper half of the data, so it's the middle number of the upper half of the data. The next one is interquartile range. It is the difference between the third and first quartiles. So just like range for a set of data is the difference between your highest and lowest number, this one, instead of using the highest and lowest number, is going to use the first quartile and the third quartile, and you subtract them, and that gives you your interquartile range. And then the last one is outliers. Outliers is the value that is either much greater or much less than the other data in a set. It's going to be a number that's a lot higher or lower than most of the rest of the data. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is talk about how to find measures of variability. So we're finding our first quartile or third quartile and our IQR, interquartile range. So, in the first example, the high temperatures in degrees Fahrenheit for 11 days are shown below. What is the IQR of the temperatures, and what does it mean for this data? So here are our numbers listed at the bottom. Step 1 is we have to find the median. So just like we had been doing, we list our numbers in order from least to greatest, and then you find your middle number. So you count off until you get to the center one, or find your middle 2 and find your average. And this set, we just have one middle number, and it is 73. So 73 is our median. Step 2, we have to find our first quartile. So we're going to take that same set of data, only we're going to take the lower half, so everything below our median, and we're going to put it in order from least to greatest. And then we just take and find the median of that set of numbers. So in this case, our median would be 69. It's the middle of our lower half. So the first quartile, or Q1, is 69. Step 3, we do the same thing to find our third quartile. We list our values in the upper half, so everything above our median of the data, in order from least to greatest. Then you find your median of the upper half of the data. In this case, it's 79. So the third quartile, or Q3, is 79. Now, to find our IQR, we subtract Q3 and Q1. So Q3 was 79, Q1 was 69, so we subtract those and get 10. The IQR is 10. This means that there is a 10-degree spread in the middle half of the data. So that middle half from Q1 to Q3, that there's only a 10-degree difference between the lowest and highest. Okay, so let's practice. Zahara's bowling scores are 124, 150, 138, and 172. Find her first and third quartile scores, so Q1 and Q3, and then what is the IQR of the scores? Okay, so when we work it out, we find out that our median's 144. Then we look at our lower half of the data and find our first quartile is 131. Then we look at our upper half of the data and find that our third quartile is 161. And our IQR then becomes 30. Okay, now, talking about one last thing is we've got to learn how to find our outliers. If a data value is more than 1.5 times the value of the IQR range beyond the quartiles, it's an outlier. So, yes, that sounds confusing, but let's look at this. If we have the example of the ages of the candidates in an election are 23, 48, 49, 55, 57, 63, and 72, we are going to name any outliers in the data. So the first thing we do is find our IQR. So we take our set of data, find our median, in this case it's 55. Then we look at our lower half of the data and we find that our first quartile is 48. We look at our second half of the data, find that our quartile is 63. Then we subtract Q3 minus Q1. So 63 minus 48 is 15. So our IQR is 15. We need the IQR to find our outliers. Step 2, we're going to take our IQR and multiply it by 1.5, because that came back to if it's 1.5 times higher or lower than our outliers, or than our quartiles, then it's an outlier. So 15 times 1.5 is 22.5. So now we're going to take and subtract 22.5 from the first quartile. So we take 48 minus 22.5 and we get 25.5. Then we add 22.5 to the Q3 or third quartile. So 22.5 plus 63 gives us 85.5. The reason we subtract from Q1 is because we want how much lower we can go, and the reason we add to quartile 3 is because we want to see how much higher than our quartile we can go. So if we look at 25.5 and 85.5, those are the limits for the outliers. Anything below 25.5 and above 85.5 are outliers. So if we go back and look at our data, the only number that is lower than 25.5 is 23, and there is nothing that is higher than 85.5. So 23 is our outlier. Okay, let's practice this. So, it's given the problem, the daily average temperatures in degrees Fahrenheit for 1 week in July were 94, 92, 90, 95, 71, 89, and 92. Name any outliers in the data.